Are you ready to rewind? Take a nostalgia-filled ride back to a simpler time. It's Acid Wash Memories, a retro pop culture celebration. And now your hosts, Joe Murata and Michael Quinn.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 24 of Acid Wash Memories, a retro pop culture celebration. Today, we are going to the battlefield of Jay Leno versus Conan O'Brien for The Tonight Show. I'm Joe Murata, joined, of course, by Michael Quinn. How you doing, Michael?
Howdy. This feels like deja vu.
Yes.
Weren't we just here?
This is our first ever sequel episode, I guess, here on Acid Wash Memories.
The dose.
The dose here. Thank you for being here for the dose, or if this happens to be your first episode, thank you for hopping aboard here. We hope you find something else you like available in the archives, right, Quinn? In the archives. We have all different episodes, all different topics.
Like part one of this.
Part one of this, where we covered Jay Leno versus David Letterman and the Tonight Show, handoff there from Johnny Carson.
Now, is there going to be a part three of this, Joe?
We'll have to find out, actually.
I'm asking it before we even get part two done.
If this merits a trilogy.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, if you think this show merits a follow on Twitter, why don't you do that at AWM Podcast on Twitter? And also, if you have a Facebook, you can use it for useful things like talking to a bunch of other people about old, nostalgic topics. Old crap. Okay, let's just call it what it is.
Let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
We're very honest.
We're nothing if not honest.
Yeah.
We're really nothing anyway, but
we're nothing and we're honest.
Yeah, we have that. And you can go to Acid Wash Memories on Facebook. It's a group, and then you join it and you can talk to people. It really is a fun time. So thank you so much for being here with us as we're talking about what was termed, and I guess still is known as, the 2010 Tonight Show conflict between Conan O'Brien.
Was it a crisis?
And Jay Leno. I wouldn't say it was a crisis.
No
but
crisis.
I do have a question for you.
What?
What is a conflict?
Well, there's two people in a conflict.
Okay.
They have a disagreement, perhaps.
Okay.
Or maybe they're going to even just straight up fight. I don't know. But that is a conflict where there's a disagreement of some kind. An impasse. There's many words for it.
Right. But harsh words are exchanged.
At the end of the day, they don't agree with each other.
They're not happy.
They're mad at each other.
Okay.
Maybe they're jealous.
Okay, well, that's good to know, because if you're at all familiar with the Tonight Show conflict from 2010, you know the story. Now, this is a pretty well-known thing, at least here in the United States. Unlike Jay Leno versus David Letterman from 1992,
right?
This is not a story of like a fractured friendship between the two. This is really, at the end of the day, a story of corporate gluttony and greed. So we're going to catch you up in just a second here on how we got to this point. But if you're not familiar, the condensed mainstream version of the narrative is that Johnny Carson was the king of late night for 30 years.
Yes,
right?
the king.
The king of late night. And in 1992, he stepped down and NBC picked big meanie Jay Leno instead of the very nice man, David Letterman.
Thanks to Kathy Bates' help or whatever.
Yes, of course. Kathy Bates was a big help.
Hey, who the fuck made you the executive producer? You do the fucking jokes. I run the fucking show.
And Leno, who is now lame and old and horrible despite being number one in the ratings since 1995, he announces a retirement in 2004 for 2009.
There's really only one person who could have done this into his 60s, and that was Johnny Carson. I think it's fair to say I'm no Johnny Carson.
And the very cool and very nice and very young Conan O'Brien is going to be the successor.
Jay Leno is, from day one, has called me constantly and offered his support.
But that big bully Leno insisted on a new 10 p.m. show.
It sucks!
And then he stole the Tonight Show right back from poor Conan O'Brien, and then Conan was relegated to cable. That is the mainstream narrative, Quinn.
Yes.
Now, you experienced this, so did I, growing up, and I gotta be right up front, because again, we're nothing if not honest, or we're nothing and we're honest, right?
Yes.
I was totally on. I was with Coco. I was Team Conan all
everyone.
the way.
I think, who wasn't? I mean,
Dick Ebersol, but...
Jay Leno was the bad guy, right? In this, there is no debating what the perception was.
And what's interesting is if you were around for this, folks, I would imagine if you're listening to our show that you were on Team Conan as well. I'd be highly surprised.
They made a whole thing. Remember when they promoted his show? It's like Team Coco.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'd be very surprised if anyone listening was on Team Leno back in 2010.
I mean, nobody was begging for him to come back.
I don't think so. And I'm not here to rewrite history. I am here to help unfold the narrative in a way that is maybe more fair than what we perceived in 2010.
Right.
If you didn't listen to part one, I suggest you do that. That was the Letterman-Leno episode. But basically, The Tonight Show mattered. That's the bottom line. That was the institution on NBC.
That's the brass ring here, right? That's the thing they all are trying to get. That's the end goal of this conflict.
Right, because anyone, Pat Sajak included, can have a show.
Right.
Even a show on at 11:30 at night on a network.
It's true.
Chevy Chase
There's
did it.
plenty of them in
Right.
this time period, unlike the last time period we talked about.
Arsenio Hall had done it.
George Lopez had
one during this period of time. Jimmy Kimmel had one. Anyone could just have a talk show, right?
I don't even own a gun.
But The Tonight Show was held in special regard amongst people that grew up with it and then became comedians or comedy writers, such as David Letterman, Jay Leno, and Conan O'Brien. And it mattered because of Johnny Carson. More than anything else, Carson was the reason that people cared about that show.
It's true.
That doesn't need to be restated too much anyway, right?
No.
But I mean, we know that, and again, you can listen to part 1 for all of that. And if you guys don't know, Jay Leno, hosting The Tonight Show, which began in May of 92, he coexisted with Late Night with David Letterman until June of 93. So it was Leno and then Letterman at 12:30 as he'd always been. And then David Letterman went to CBS and premiered at the end of August of 93. And from that period of time until mid-1995, Letterman was number 1.
It's because he was better.
Well, it's because more people liked him at the time, yeah. And Leno had his own problems with the show. I mean, like you said, Kathy Bates, which obviously it's not really Kathy Bates, Helen Kushnick.
Yeah, it's just Kathy Bates played her in the movie.
In the late shift.
You promised me you'd be off by 11, you shithead. I'm going live tonight so we can get some payoff from your horseshit convention coverage.
Then the Hugh Grant interview is what shifted the tide in the ratings. If for whatever reason that one moment captured the zeitgeist.
It's still amazing to me that that's the thing.
Let me start with question number 1. What the hell were you thinking?
Does anybody really remember anything Jay Leno did after that? Like, he was just generic. Like, he was just vanilla, like, whoops, we left the channel for 12 years or whatever on this, by accident.
Let me ask you let me ask you a question, though, Quinn, in all seriousness. Jay Leno is often compared to McDonald's. Do you remember one particular quarter pounder that you loved? No. You just know it's consistent quality.
Yep, but I remember the McDeluxe and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, the failures, you mean.
Yeah, the stuff that was good, you mean? that they got wacky with?
Well, exactly. So anyway, Leno never had the critics, but he had the ratings since 1995. Letterman got the critics. He got the Emmy nomination. He won Emmys, right? So on a critical level, Letterman was always perceived as the cooler one, the better show. Leno was perceived as the mainstream, dumbed his act way the hell down, as we were talking about in the last episode.
Oh, he's not even the same person.
Compared to 80s Leno, no, he's not.
And by the point we're talking about here, he's really not the same person.
No, he's really not.
He's like Disneyland or something. He's like Mickey Mouse or something.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse, yeah.
Anyway, you enjoyed your flight.
Well, you know what it is? It makes these stops. And it's not even like regular stops. It's so like the pilot can show the plane to his friends. You know, that kind
of... Meanwhile, in 1993, we need a new host of David Letterman's Late Night because he's obviously leaving. So Lorne Michaels, who obviously famously developed and executive producer of Saturday Night Live.
I think he still was.
Yes, he was. In the 90s, he was again. He was brought in by Warren Littlefield just to add credibility because NBC was caught with their pants down. They didn't have a replacement.
Right.
So basically, Warren Littlefield was like, well, we'll get Lorne Michaels involved and we can say that Lorne is involved and that enough should carry us through.
Oh, do you think Lorne Michaels didn't do anything? He was just, to give it credibility, he just said, you could use my name or whatever.
Yeah, and he got I forget how much money it was. He got money for it, but he was basically just a side advisor.
Gotcha.
He wasn't really that involved.
That's something NBC would do, is they would use names of certain executive producers that had good names, and they would say, hey, they sort of had something to do with this so that you think it's good.
Well, because they're like, well, it's Late Night. You know Lorne Michaels from, Saturday Night Live. Yeah. That's Late Night. Yeah. So this will be good. So they considered a bunch of, at the time, pretty big names. Dana Carvey, who was actually... Dana Carvey was on the rise in the early 90s. Wayne's World did him favors.
Yeah.
He declined.
He was known.
Known. Another guy that declined, even probably on the level of Dana Carvey, maybe more, was Gary Shandling. Who had...
You would think he would want that, considering his late night escapades.
Well, yeah, the Larry Sanders Show and all that.
It would be amazing if he just got his own show.
A regular show, but he also declined. And for whatever reason, someone had the idea of, there's a guy named Conan O'Brien, he's a comedy writer. Why don't we try him out? He's never really been a performer. He was brought in to audition on the set of Jay Leno's Tonight Show in April of 93. He interviewed Jason Alexander and I believe it was Mimi Rogers.
Again, thank you for coming.
How could I miss an opportunity like this?
It's not often you get to share camera time with me.
There you go.
And for whatever reason, through the awkwardness and the quirkiness, this young 30-year-old comedy writer impressed them enough that he was actually hired within weeks of the audition. But who is Conan O'Brien? Because this is a new face now to meet, right? In this whole thing, we know Leno, we know Letterman. Conan O'Brien was born in 1963 in Brookline, Massachusetts, not far from where Jay Leno is from, by the way.
Brookline. Brookline?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not Brooklyn.
Not Brooklyn.
He would definitely talk differently.
Yeah.
Conan O'Brien is known as a very smart writer. Just still has that reputation. A very smart guy.
He's a writer first.
Yes. And he was also a high school valedictorian, went to Harvard and graduated magna cum laude.
So he's a smart guy.
Extremely smart. He was the president of the Harvard Lampoon. That is what was spun off of for National Lampoon.
Right. I've heard of that, yeah.
And he parlayed that into a job for an HBO show at the time called Not Necessarily the News, which was kind of like I'm using this loosely, but like a prototype daily show.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really.
Looking for accurate, up-to-the-minute reports from Washington, the sports world, and Wall Street? You won't find it here. It's Not Necessarily the News, and it's definitely next.
And then in January of 1988, he was hired by Lorne Michaels to write for Saturday Night Live.
What a gig, right?
Great gig. He was there for 3 years on SNL. He left in 1991. Not a prolific writer there. And then he went from there to The Simpsons.
This is where I always hear, like, he's good Simpsons. Like, he's part of that. When the show was just a joke a second and all of them were good.
Yeah.
Right, you know?
Yeah, because Conan joined in 91. The Simpsons started in earnest with the December of 89 episode, but like really full-time in 90. I'm not talking about the Tracy Ullman stuff, obviously.
Right.
So he was transformative for The Simpsons. He is the one that really brought the offbeat, surreal sense of humor. Because if you recall, in the very early Simpsons, it was played more of a flat-out traditional sitcom that happened to be animated.
Right.
The very early ones.
But then it got... I feel like during the Conan years, it got more absurdist and like making fun of things that were going on TV. It was like meta in a sense. And it was, I know it's not Mel Brooks, but it had that Mel Brooks every joke a second kind of bit going on where the characters are just walking into jokes, right? Like they are just, everything they do is a bit.
That is the era where The Simpsons really started to find their voice. And Conan was a part of that. Even for the ones that he didn't explicitly write, he was still part of the writing room of every episode. So he would be involved in the pitches and the back and forth. The two most famous ones probably that he wrote was Marge versus the Monorail and Homer Goes to College. I'm saying this for the Simpsons fans out there.
Right.
Order! Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Get to the money! In a moment.
But anyway, in the midst of this, in 1993, he gets this audition that we were talking about, and he decides to take the job for late night. He has to leave The Simpsons. Fox would not let him out of his contract. Yeah. Rightfully so.
I mean, Fox will take anything they can get during this. We're still in the development period of Fox.
Yeah, early 90s Fox, And they don't want to lose one of their great writers for The Simpsons. So NBC and Conan himself work out a deal where they buy out the remainder of his Fox contract.
Fair enough.
So he can leave. So the Conan O'Brien version of Late Night with Conan O'Brien debuts September of 1993, the same month as an abject failure, The Chevy Chase Show, which one day...
I don't even remember that.
One day that's coming, Quentin.
Yeah. If I knew you were going to be this enthusiastic, I would have rehearsed. Boy, I'm so excited.
If you've seen the show, you know the deal. He has Andy Richter, an unknown comedy writer and comedian.
Who would become known thanks to this.
Yep, his sidekick. Max Weinberg, who was the drummer for Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. He's the band leader. Mm-hmm. But not a huge name in 93.
Well, that's the whole thing is like you don't want to be too... like high up the perch musician wise. Like it's always like the medium level, right? Like it's like somebody who's talented, but somebody who's not a star.
It wasn't like Bruce Springsteen himself was the band leader.
Like a professional musician who's not as known, basically.
And that's who Max Weinberg was. I mean, he's known amongst Springsteen fans. I know that. Right. But anyway, as far as the show, it sucked in the beginning. Mm-hmm. It was really, really awkward.
Andy, you are, of course, you won. We scouted hundreds of thousands of people, and you were actually the winner of the sidekick competition.
Yeah.
You actually weren't even entering. What happened to you?
I got on the back of a box of donuts, this scratch off and win thing.
Right.
In the beginning, man, it took a critical drubbing. NBC hated it. They kept giving him, like, at one point, I think it was 13-week contracts. That's like 3 months.
That's like insulting also.
That is it is insulting. It's a complete vote of no confidence.
Right.
13 weeks.
Turn this around in 13 weeks. You sort of did. Okay, you only get 13 more weeks, right? It's like, damn.
That's insane.
Also, what kind of ratings do they even expect at like 1 in the morning or whatever?
12:30 to 1:30.
Right,
yeah,
like,
when they decided to hire the no-name guy.
Yeah, exactly.
They picked him.
Like, isn't he just filling a chair at that point anyway? Like, what do they I don't get what they're actually like, what even are the expectations?
I guess it's all based on ad buys and ad sales and
right,
shit.
Maybe.
You know how it goes. But they kept wanting to replace him with Greg Kinnear. You know Greg Kinnear, right?
See, that's the thing, is I don't think this is the kind of position where replacing the person's going to help.
Right.
Like, it just isn't.
Right. You talking due to the time slot, due to the fact that, hey, it's not David Letterman anymore.
Right, yeah.
That Leno might not be the greatest lead-in 1993.
Right.
There's another reason.
Also, that Letterman might have just been like a miracle, like as far as like, especially at that time slot.
Being able to pull it off for that long.
Right, yeah.
11 years he did it. I mean,
right.
At that time slot.
It's true.
And he was almost as big as The Tonight Show at times.
I'd say the biggest drawback we've had so far is that you had a very funny window on your show.
Yeah, we had a great window.
You had a very funny window, and my window, it isn't very funny. Look at this.
But something happened. NBC didn't get rid of Conan and his quirky-ass show, right? It is very offbeat, different than Letterman, but still equally offbeat.
Can I propose a theory to that?
That's why you're here, Quinn.
When Conan was offbeat, and he got more offbeat as it went along, for whatever reason, I feel like the culture was going in that direction with the humor, especially the 90s. Especially as the mid-90s start to, and the late 90s,
yes.
Like, more offbeat became in vogue as far as comedy.
That's a great point.
Like, he might have just been in the right place at the right time, the right comedian.
You know, that's a great point, because Carson stopped in 92, and a lot of the fads and the trends of the 80s and prior were melting away right around the early to mid-90s. This wasn't the days of Dean Martin and Don Rickles. I love Don Rickles, but it wasn't the days of them just going on Carson and just doing their shtick.
Just take a peruse around Fox with The Simpsons, like what that is, or like on Nickelodeon with like weird, like,
Wienerville.
Like, not just the shows, but also just like the the in-betweens and like all this like weird MTV with that crap.
Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, like just all
Ren
this.
and Stimpy.
Pete and Pete. You know what I mean?
A little
like,
surreal.
Just everything from kids to adults is like this offbeat brand surreal stuff.
That's a good point.
You know, it to me, why the kids also matter is because meaning it's permeating the culture. It's like, it's from the Gen Xers down to the young millennials. Like, it's all that kind of stuff.
The 18 to 49, and then the kids, yeah. Conan, though, didn't give up, and he really worked hard at this show. He really, really did. He tried to be different, and much like early Letterman, different. How can I be different, you know? And by 1996, it's generally recognized, is when the critical opinion turned around. But not only that, that's when people started to take notice. Oh, the show is on?
Yeah.
Tonight on Conan holiday conversation starters.
Everyone hates your pearl onions and cream sauce.
And Sherry Stringfield describes life after ER.
Cool, I quit.
Uh-oh.
Most people, and if you were watching it full-time before 96, I commend you, because I know nobody that was watching it before
Those
around 96.
Those people probably watched it by accident because it was on after Leno, and they just didn't fall asleep.
Yeah, right. They woke up maybe in the middle of it or something.
Who the fuck is this?
Right.
Yeah, whatever.
And it was a worthy, in my opinion, from a comic sensibility, a worthy follow-up to Letterman without being an imitation whatsoever.
Yeah, it does feel like a spiritual successor because of like the offbeatness of it.
Yes, it's still like that small club atmosphere.
I'll say this, my perception of this show, whenever I was even able to catch it, because I was still younger, but like kind of sort of being able to watch some of this stuff, it almost felt like a parody of a late night show.
They were meta.
There was things like that I saw future shows kind of like I felt like the Tom Green show later on, like the like late night version or whatever, like was like kind of like similar-ish to it, where it's like we have this weirdo, but he's hosting it, not a Johnny Carson type.
Yeah,
that's what I liked about it, right? Because it was just like bizarre.
Yeah, and Conan did embody that in a lot of ways. It was a bizarre, not a straight parody of a talk show, obviously.
Yeah,
but it was very self-aware.
Right,
and it was very cool. And it kept growing in popularity throughout each year of the 90s. Andy Richter left in the year 2000. And
which that was their joke, too, right?
Yeah, that was their bit. They had a lot of
so
cool
many
bits.
things that came out of that sometimes you don't even realize.
Yeah.
Right? Like in the year 2000, just that became like pop culture.
Bit.
Like but people, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that went beyond Conan.
And then we do doofy ass shit where they had like this hugely over the top parodies of like Bill Clinton and Saddam Hussein.
Yep.
And they'd have a picture and their mouth would be different. And
right, yeah.
And the impressions were intentionally stupid.
Hey there, Mr. President.
Hey, how y'all doing, folks? Everybody read my book yet?
Everything was stupid, but that was the point. It was so offbeat and like not serious, right?
Like
but not in a in a comedy way, not serious.
Yes.
Like we're not even trying. Like it's awkward. That's the humor,
If
right?
a joke didn't work, oh well.
Right, and you're supposed to laugh that it didn't work,
Yeah,
right?
like who cares?
Yeah, like what an idiot! His stupid joke didn't work, right?
And these are all qualities of a 12:30 show. Let's just keep that in mind as a benchmark here as we move forward. So by late 2001, Conan's doing great, and NBC is very happy with him, and he's got 1 year left on his contract, okay? Just want to put this in perspective. So Fox stampedes in to Conan.
We know you.
Right, yeah, we remember you, with a ludicrously high offer, like 7 times what he was making at NBC.
Wow.
The last time, mind you, that Fox had a show was Chevy Chase. That worked out great. Fox's offer is, we're going to pay you like 7 times more than NBC. It's going to start at 11 p.m., not 11:30, so you're going to have the jump on Leno and Letterman. NBC says, look, we're going to make you a realistic offer because we think Fox is full of shit with that money. We're going to give you a big raise, and we're going to extend you until 2005.
Okay.
4 more years.
That's fair enough.
That's their offer, right. And Conan wanted to stay at NBC with the hopes of one day doing what, Quinn?
Hosting the Tonight Show, which is that's the unspoken carrot on the stick, right? Is like that they can't say in the contract unless they have an agreement from Jay Leno to leave.
Right.
But in this extending to 2005 one, they can't do that just yet, right?
So here's what they do. He does sign in March of 2002. He had what is termed a Prince of Wales clause, where
oh, okay. So he's like literally the heir to the throne, right?
Correct. But there's no specifics in it other than when Jay Leno is no longer doing the Tonight Show, meaning if he leaves, if we fire him, if we don't renew his, whatever it is, for whatever reason, if he dies, you are the new host. Okay, keep that in mind. So by 2003, Conan has his 10th anniversary special, which aired in primetime. I watched it. My brother was a huge Conan fan. He taped it. We watched it together.
The show made it that far was impressive at the time.
It was.
Here's your anniversary gift.
That's beautiful. It's that is so weird. It's a 7. I've been on for 10 years.
I know that, fool, but you only been funny for 7.
Conan O'Brien in the early 2000s, folks, if you remember this period of time, he was hot. He was
on fire. Like now it was hitting the mainstream. It's like, oh, this guy's good, right? You know, all those years of work.
Yes.
Like it was paying off. Like he had broken through. I swear the internet helped.
It did.
Because the clips that were making it on these, E-Bombs World and like all that stuff in the early before YouTube.
Yep.
There was a lot of Conan clips. I remember this.
There was. And not only that, word of mouth. People would tell their friends about it. Hey, you know this guy Conan? Because we were coming of age. We were, 17, 18 around this period of time. You're old enough to stay up late. There's college kids loved Conan.
Yep.
Because it's just like Letterman. Same exact thing from 10 years
but it's for us.
prior. But yeah, for us now. So in January of 2003, while we're on this year, ABC, the American broadcasting company, they decide they're going to finally break into the late night comedy genre.
Long overdue, if you ask me.
Right, because they got Ted Koppel with Nightline, but that's not comedy.
Yeah.
Unless you like his
need
hair.
something more lighthearted than Nightline was scary sometimes.
It was very ominous.
Yeah.
I had to turn the TV off when it came on.
Nightline was something that it was good that it existed so you could get the late night update or whatever.
Right. Well, Ted Koppel did not fuck around.
Right now you're hearing from Jessica Lynch. Tonight on Nightline you'll hear from 2 other American soldiers, best friends who went to war together, saw their lives forever changed.
I really should only be here if like a war is starting or something,
not a conflict.
Something morbid is happening.
Right.
Like Nixon died. I don't know.
Well, that was important.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ted Koppel was a very, very serious man.
Yeah.
Like, he was not cracking jokes.
You don't mess around on this show.
No.
Right?
But you do mess around on the brand new Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Good evening, I'm Ted Koppel. There will be no special post-Super Bowl edition of Nightline tonight so that ABC can bring you the following piece of garbage.
So they tapped Jimmy Kimmel
of Man Show fame.
Of Man Show, and previously Win Ben Stein's Money.
Right.
He was the host of that with Ben Stein, obviously.
I thought this was so hilarious that this even was a thing, because this guy was like the king of cable.
He was the king of cable.
Like, he was not considered a big deal. Like, believe it or not, for younger people who are like, Jimmy Kimmel's been around forever, like 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years now.
Right? But like back then, he really was like the guy from the Man
That's
Show.
how I
like,
thought
I
of it.
was
I'm
like,
who?
What are they doing?
Why him?
Well, why this choice?
The Comedy Central guy?
Yeah,
that's all he had done that I knew of. You know what I mean?
It was all Comedy Central stuff.
Yeah.
You may be excited, but at home, they really couldn't care less, to be honest with you. Welcome to Enjoy It While It Lasts, my new talk show.
And this was ABC's first late-night talk show since they experimented with trying to bring back Dick Cavett in the 80s.
Oh, God.
He was like everywhere, that guy. But anyway, this was a 12:05 show to follow Nightline, so it was not head-to-head with either. It was head-to-head with a little bit of Tonight Show, a little bit of Conan.
I'll say this about Kimmel. I thought his humor was actually more in line with that early 2000s. I don't know how to describe it. Like, there was a lot of bits, like where he would like go out and like, you know, he would make fun of himself, or he had his friend or whatever.
It's like,
and they would go do embarrassing things.
Would you call it populist humor? Or
yeah, it is like very mainstream. Like,
it is
very
mainstream.
like, it's not political. It's just kind of dumb, like almost like a Jackass element to it.
A little bit, yeah. Or
it
a Man
also
Show element.
It very much reflected the King of Cable deal, right?
Yeah, I agree. So we have him now. I just wanted to mention that he is a player now in the late night game. We have Conan doing great, and people know who he is now by the early 2000s. So what about Jay Leno? Well, he's still number one in the ratings, and that honestly is all NBC gives a flying ass about, is who's number one. Are we making the money we're supposed to make? Fine.
How much of that is the time slot by this point? He's so stale. He's so stale.
What do they care?
By this point?
What do they care?
I know.
If you sell shitty food but people buy it.
Like, even Letterman, as who's also existing during this time, he's getting more stale, but he's still...
He is, yes.
He's still got like a little fire to him.
The Dave edge to him.
He's like the grumpy old man version of Dave, and it kind of just... It kind of just works, right? Like, it seems better than Leno.
Jay long since had his edges very rounded off.
Right.
In more ways than one.
Yeah.
But to Leno's credit... He knew the game. He could have still been old Jay, but you know why he wasn't? Because he wanted to be number one.
Right, but I felt like with the times a changing as far as fads in comedy and seeing what was going on, like if he had whipped out the old Jay, it would have probably worked in that time period.
Why fix what isn't broken? That's I
know. I'm just saying in that time period, he could have made a second run. Like, and he would have been relevant.
But he's not concerned with relevancy. When you have the largest late night audience, what more do you have to prove? I'm asking a legitimate question. I mean, if he was out to prove his artistic integrity and capability, that's one thing.
I would say he was vulnerable in the early 2000s, and this is why.
Why is that?
Because if Letterman had even turned it up a little bit, like, I really feel like even a slight more edge from Letterman could have like defanged Leno a little bit,
It's
right?
tough.
Because like if Letterman changed it a little more to the way he used to be at that time specifically.
Maybe, Quinn, but I mean, you're talking about changing the minds and viewing habits of over 1 million people at that point, because Leno was usually pulling in over 1 million more than Dave.
I understand.
It's just what it is. It's not a question of who's better or not. The NBC doesn't care.
Yeah,
they don't care.
It's just both of them were set. Both of them were set in their ways at this point, so that's why nothing moved.
Well, that's also why Conan was viewed as a breath of fresh air.
Right? Yeah,
because of that. So in early 2004, for you playing along with the dates, early 2004, Jay Leno's contract comes up, as it always did, and it was always a formality. Jay, we're going to extend. Okay, it's fine. I want to extend. And that's it. He extends because he's number one, and it's a given. But the discussion becomes now, within NBC, we're going to renew Leno for 4 more years, and then Conan can have the show, like we said.
Okay.
Conan can have his Tonight Show.
Now it's there.
We're going to give Jay one last contract.
Right.
So in March of 2004, Leno has his meeting, as he always did every year, or every contract rollover, and he is told the news. This is your last contract.
We're not doing this again.
We're going to give you one more. Then after that, Conan's going to take over. And Jay Leno, always the consummate people pleaser, he doesn't raise a stink about it. He handles it with apparent dignity, but he does ask, give me 6 months before this is announced. Just have a grace period. And Conan, privately from Leno, and NBC agree to that. They agree to that. We're not going to announce it for 6 more months because March of 2004 is when this took place. I want to make one point clear here, folks. There's a lot of names of executives and other people here. I'm leaving out all the names and just using NBC as a blanket term.
Okay, so we're just going to refer to them as NBC.
For the most part, because there are people, and where they're...
These big meanies.
And where they're relevant, I'll have to name them, but like the main culprit here from NBC is Jeff Zucker, who was the CEO.
I know him.
He went on to do CNN. Yes, the bald guy. Really screwed up everything here. And Conan's right-hand man was Jeff. There's a lot of people where it's not really pertinent to the discussion, okay? The bottom line is Jay Leno privately feels like, what did I do wrong? Why is this my last contract? I'm number one still. And listen, I want everyone out there to just think of that as if it's not Jay Leno. If the goal of your job, if your performance is judged on being number one, getting the ratings, doing what NBC tells you to do, and you've been doing it consistently, wouldn't you also question, okay, why? What did I do wrong? Why are they letting me go?
But I also want to point something out here. Johnny Carson was like an exception. If he thought that he was going to be there for 30 years, get the hell out of here. Jay Leno was never at the, he had all that time and he never really was at the level of Johnny Carson.
But he would admit that, Quinn.
But my point is if his expectation was that he was going to get 20, 30 years of this, I feel like that's kind of silly. 15 years or whatever he was at by this point, like that feels like a run, right? Like, okay, it's time.
I can't disagree with that.
Right? Like, why couldn't he just do that in his head? That it's just like, maybe it's just time. Like Johnny Carson's from a different people, he just didn't go because that was just, he was special. He was exceptional.
Well, and there was no competition either.
There also, there was no other shows or anything. There was no reason to change him. It's a very different situation. Now they have all these options. I would say it's getting to 15 years even. He should celebrate that and leave.
But here's my question, though.
Right.
Pretend it's not about his brand of comedy, whatever you think of it. If I've been doing a good job and I'm meeting or exceeding what is required of me, and I don't want to stop doing it, then why should I be okay with being told that I have to stop?
Because it's the entertainment business and things changed.
But it's the money business, Quinn.
Right, but
it's a financial business.
It's still a television show.
I understand
that. It's still been on for an extended period of time.
I understand.
Right? Like at some point your run's over.
Predicated on what?
Sometimes it's just a change of scenery, right? Like, we've seen that. We've seen shows that are successful just kind of end because it was time.
Because they want to. Seinfeld ended because Seinfeld wanted to.
I understand.
They didn't get canceled.
I get it.
I'm just putting these questions
Sometimes
out there.
The network wants something different.
Yeah, you know what they wanted? They didn't want to lose Conan O'Brien.
Right.
So
because they knew he was good.
And
he was young.
So they gave him this clause.
Right.
That's the only reason they're in this predicament. If Conan didn't have this clause, Leno would not be.
But all I'm saying is that if I'm Leno, well, yes, I'm number one. I accomplished the goal, and I think in some clips and stuff, people said this. He's kind of a steward of the Tonight Show, right?
Yes,
it's like a dynasty or whatever, right? At some point, it's time. Like, it's time to just change it up, and maybe it's better if it doesn't change. While like if he's number one when he goes out. It's the best run you could get, right?
I'll agree with that.
Why just leave on top, right?
So you're saying do what your boss is telling you to do.
In this case, yeah, because it's not like they only gave him 3 years or something.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
That's all. It's like they gave him 15 years or whatever.
Well,
How many years had it been at this point?
12. This is a fair discussion.
Yeah, and it's 4 more years, so he would have had 16 years.
It's a fair discussion. By the way, one detail that they had to jiggle around because it was going to be a 4-year contract. Whoopsie, if we don't make it 5 years, it'll interfere with something with Conan's timing, so they actually had to wind up extending him 5 more years. It's not his fault. It's something to do with like Conan's deal also.
Yep.
So it's officially now in 2009, Jay Leno will step down.
17 years.
Yes, and Conan O'Brien will take over. Jay Leno infamously announces this in September of 2004, that 6-month grace period, on The Tonight Show, and he goes into a whole prepared deal.
You know, this show is like a dynasty. You hold it, and then you hand it off to the next person. And I don't want to see all the fighting and all, and who's better, and nasty things back and forth in the press. So right now, here it is. Conan, it's yours. See you in 5 years, buddy. Okay. Clear enough? Enough said?
I want to make a point, though. It's not really Leno's show to hand off. It's a symbolic gesture. Like,
right.
if Leno says, no, I'm not handing it off, well, yes, you are, because you signed a contract
We
that
own
says
the
you
IP,
are.
not you.
Correct, but I just want to make that point. Who made the decision? Jay Leno to leave in 2009 and give it to Conan? NBC made the decision, right?
But they were within their rights. And
yes,
and
they are.
The only other point in their favor is it had been a long time. Like, it's not like they were pulling the rug out under the guy. They have a 5 years runway, Joe. Let's be fair. That's all I'm saying.
In the meantime, late night at CBS became a thing again because David Letterman owned the rights to put on whatever the hell he wanted after his show, right? After the Late Show with David Letterman. So he brought
Worldwide
back...
Pants.
Worldwide Pants. You got it, Michael. He brought back the old Tomorrow Show host, Tom Snyder, who used to be in Letterman's time slot from 73 to 81. He brought him back for the Late Show with Tom Snyder, which nobody watched, from 95 until 99.
On the Late Show, the former Sex Pistol Johnny Lydon, and from ESPN, Keith Olbermann on the Late Show, only here on CBS.
Now, wait, didn't Mr. Pitt take this eventually or something? What am I thinking of?
Mr. Wick, and I'll get to him.
Mr. Wick, yeah.
Not Mr. Pitt. Imagine him hosting a talk show, though. Elaine! Anyway.
Sorry, the other boss.
Yes, yeah, the other boss.
You knew who I was thinking of.
I did. Then Tom Snyder. Now, Tom Snyder did not host an audience-based show. He was like, I'm a former newsman. I do the thing, and I'm quirky, and I have the eyebrows, right? He white hair and the dark eyebrows. He stepped down in early 99 and handed it off to the former Daily Show, another cable guy, Craig Kilborn, the original Daily Show host.
Hello there. Welcome to your Late Show. My name is Craigers, and listen to this big weekend opening movie. Michael Douglas's new movie opening this weekend. I don't know if you know what it's about. It tells the story of an older actor who marries an actress half his age. And is then run over by a Lexus driven by Craig Kilborn. So that's kind of a...
And he hosted that show until the end of 2004, right around the time frame that we're talking about. And various guest hosts were brought in basically as on-air auditions. And the one that the producers and the audiences were most impressed with came out of nowhere. The Scottish-born Craig Ferguson, who of course was known for playing Mr. Wick.
Yeah, Mr. Wick.
On Drew Carey.
This was like, to me, like stunning. I don't know why, like I was like, wait, Drew's boss? Well, first of all, he's off ABC canon, and now he's off to CBS canon, so that was shocking in general.
And also, he's a talk show host now?
And now he's a talk show host, and he's, like, weirder. He already was weird.
On purpose,
the Drew Carey show, like, at the beginning, Mr. Wick was a serious character, and then he just became, it quickly, like, devolved into, like, he's insane. Like, he's not even, like, evil, he's just weird.
He's a cartoon.
Yeah, he's just a complete cartoon character.
Honestly.
I'm the new host of this show, and I've got to be honest, I am the happiest man alive. Well, except perhaps for Conan O'Brien. It's amazing how far you can go in this country. Can you believe that when I arrived here almost 10 years ago, I had an accent? And now...
So as 2004 became 2005, and then 2006... the absolute truth as far as the ratings are concerned and pop culture in general is that Conan's popularity started to wane a little bit. And I gotta say this, NBC made a serious gambit here, Quinn, by saying you have to wait 5 years to get this show because 5 years is half a decade.
Right.
A lot can change.
The humor fads can change, right? The comedy.
And who knows if some new up-and-comer is going to be hotter than anyone on TV.
Okay, but if you're the contract people, right, at NBC,
maybe I'm the contract people.
Maybe you're thinking to yourself, well, maybe this is good because if he does burn out, then we've saved ourselves giving him the Tonight Show right away and realizing like he's not timeless or whatever, right? Like he is, it was a fad.
But then they got a contract with him.
Right, but I'm saying like if the 5 years Oh, right. They already agreed to the
That's
other
what I'm
thing.
saying.
That's true.
They're saying in 5 years...
I'm thinking of the previous contract, the
they're
Prince of Wales contract.
No, they're saying in 5 years, you're going to host The Tonight Show.
Yeah.
But we don't even know... What if Conan has a sex scandal? Well, not that Conan would, but you know what I mean.
Right, but anything could happen, right?
Right. Well,
he falls off a roof, gets hit by a truck.
Right,
like,
and then it's just, Jay Leno hits 2029.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Can you believe the elections? Anyway, in 2007, both ABC, the American Broadcasting Corporation, and Fox start having talks with Jay Leno. Interesting. Now,
so this probably gets NBC all in a huff, right?
Oh, look at you. You're catching on, Quinn. The research showed, and NBC was aware of this, that if Jay Leno went over to ABC, he might actually win versus Conan and versus Letterman.
I know that maybe the research shows that, but I don't know. It's like that being the Late Show thing really was a crutch for the guy, which we would find out later also.
Well, we will find out if it's all the time slot or not, because someone else hosted it after Leno, and if it was all time slot based, we'll have to see what the outcome would have been. NBC, like Quinn said, they got nervous about this. They're like, oh shit, Jay Leno, we didn't want to lose Conan to Fox. But Jay Leno can go to Fox or ABC, and ABC's already established themselves now with Jimmy Kimmel. They have a show over there. They have a presence. So Jeff Zucker, I have to bring up the asshole's name here, the bald guy.
Right.
He starts to think of ways, well, how do we keep Jay Leno after he's done with The Tonight Show? How do we just make sure he doesn't leave?
Right.
So he offers them Bob Hope specials, you know, the high profile, like, oh, it's an all new comedy special, variety show. Jay Leno's like, I don't really want to do that.
You know what they should have done?
What?
They should have had him compete with Regis and be on at like 10 or whatever in the morning. Like, that would have worked. Like, honestly, he's like older. Like, it would kind of. He's like a consummate.
He's got the folksiness.
He's like a host.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you see Regis over there?
Can you believe this over here? They offer him a weekly Sunday night show. He's like, I'm not. What? Why would I do that? That's a horrible idea. Then they offer him, well, why don't we put you? We own USA now. Let's put you on cable at 11 p.m.
Let me guess, that was insulting to him.
Yes. He's like, I'm not. Why would I do cable? I've been on NBC. I'm not doing cable. So as 2009 approaches, NBC bigwigs such as the notorious Dick Ebersol, they're concerned about...
So now we've gone up to Dick.
We've gone up Dick.
Yeah.
Rick Ludwin being another one. They're concerned about Conan O'Brien's appeal to the coveted Middle America demographic, which represents a large swath of people.
I know.
They suggest to Conan, while he's still doing late night, lengthen your monologue, broaden your appeal. You're going to be doing an hour earlier. You're going to be doing a different show. You can't be wacky, crazy Conan at 11:30.
I'm groaning a little bit because I was like, we just had 17 years of this whatever this is, like this broad mainstream whatever. Like, it was fine. It's like, wow, it's gonna be different finally, right? Like, and see what everyone thinks of it, right?
Well, you raise a point. However, NBC doesn't care about that. They think, well, we just had all these years of number one, and we want to keep it that way. Jeff Zucker, bald guy, he comes up with a solution, a horrible solution, a widely ridiculed solution.
This is like a notoriously dumb thing ever.
Yes.
Like, stupid.
Horrible idea. Let's bump the dramas that are on at 10 p.m. in like the good spot. You know,
let's reshape everything, right?
You know how like Law and Order is on?
Yeah,
like,
all those shows that get really good ratings, by the way.
And are critically acclaimed usually. Yeah. No more of them at 10 p.m. Monday through Friday. Instead, we're going to replace it with a brand new concept for the 10 p.m. time slot. Comedy. And this comedy being in the form of The Jay Leno Show.
Horrible. Terrible.
A 10
I thought he was leaving. Why are we doing this? Like,
I just want to make
we didn't have to deal with him anymore.
I just want to make it clear, though. Jeff Zucker wanted to keep him.
I don't know why.
Jay Leno wasn't like, you have to put me at 10 o'clock. I have to find...
I know. All these reasons, though, for keeping him are dumb.
They didn't want to lose him to Fox or ABC.
I guarantee you, if he went to ABC,
He's taking a big piece of the pie even if he's not winning.
He's not
be taken.
He's not beating the Tonight Show. It's not happening.
Nevertheless, he could erode tonight. Listen, they lose 2 million viewers, even if they're still beating Letterman. That's 2 million less viewers. That's going to affect their ad sales. Like, it still matters.
I know.
You know what I mean? They don't hand out trophies for being number 1, 2, and 3. It's not like the ending of Street Fighter with you and then Sagat and then Bison, you know?
Could ABC even afford Leno?
Yeah, that's ABC. Of course they could.
I'm just saying, like,
you know how much money these companies have, Quinn?
Maybe
a little bit more than you and me.
For an old man, they want to pay that.
He's younger than Letterman.
I know, but he stinks. He's a hack.
They don't care. Jay Leno is not a hack comedian, and any fellow comedian would tell you that. Lazy and uninspired.
Not that version of him. He's a hack, that version.
That's not a hack. You don't know what a hack is.
The good version is not a hack. This guy is a hack.
No, he's a great monologue writer still, at the very least. He's just
just have him write. How about that?
He's a bad broadcaster is what it comes down to. Leno himself said this.
Yeah.
He said, I'm a comedian who happens to have a show. Dave is a broadcaster that happens to be very funny. Mm-hmm. And that really does, like,
true.
Completely.
Dave is so much more watchable than this guy.
Because he's a better broadcaster.
Yeah.
But Leno admits that. He doesn't care because he's number 1. I'm going to keep restating that. He doesn't care what a guy
on Letterman's throne.
He doesn't. It's not Letterman's throne. He doesn't care what a guy like you or me thinks. Oh, these kids from the Northeast. You know what I mean?
I know.
And neither does NBC. But anyway, Jay Leno is hesitant because he's like, really, 10 o'clock? Are you serious? But he agrees to it. In December of 2008,
they went to Jay, Big Jaw Leno, and they said, Jay, we're taking your show away from you.
Yes.
And Jay said, yeah, okay, that's pretty good.
Right.
I was going to suggest that.
Right.
Conan and company were blindsided. They're like, what the fuck are we following Jay Leno again for? I thought, like, this is what we were ending. You know what I mean?
Your agent's like, there's good news and bad news. You are doing the Tonight Show. It's true. Mm-hmm. But remember that discussion where you said, I'll never have to follow Leno again?
He just got put in the same thing, but just earlier.
Right. It's just like he lives in Central Time.
Yeah, that's it.
But the one thing that eased Conan's mind is because he would still be going to Burbank, going to the 11:35 Tonight Show, the one that he grew up watching with his dad in Brookline, Massachusetts. He's still getting that show. So you know what? I'm fine with it for now. And that is where we're leaving off as we take a break here. When we come back, 2009, a tumultuous year in The Tonight Show, but maybe 2010, even worse. We will find out when more Acid Wash Memories returns, right after this.
Well, it's set for the world is a stage, a different performance with every age. So open up the history book at any old page, bring out the lines and open the cage. Give the people what they want.
Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien. Taller, roomier, and built to perform each and every night. With a higher hair ratio and enhanced Irish package. The 2009 Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien. Available June 1st.
You smell like potatoes.
I know.
So who would win in a race between Bob Costas and Al Michaels? Jay puts them both on the track this week. Place your bets now. And LeBron James tries not to bump his head on our huge new set. The Jay Leno Show, this week, 10/9 Central on NBC.
People everywhere are experiencing a breakthrough. I'm full! Fullness from a value menu.
Guess who got full this weekend?
You dog! Introducing the Big Bell Value Menu from Taco Bell. A new menu of filling items like half-pound burritos and double tacos. Designed to keep your stomach and your wallet full.
I'm full beyond my wildest dreams, and you can't be too.
Get full on value. Think outside the bun.
And now we return to more acid-washed memories.
Hey, welcome back here to Acid Washed Memories.
Hey, I'm still here.
Episode 24. Thanks for still being here with us. Sorry for the Leno impression. Hey, follow us on Twitter at AWM Podcast, and be sure to join our Facebook group if you have a Facebook. You can also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast application. Sure appreciate you being with us here. Speaking of people that are still there, Quinn, 2008 becomes 2009. We left off where Conan's like, okay, why? But I'm still getting the Tonight Show, so all is well, right? Because that was the brass ring, like you said.
He wanted that house.
Right. He wanted that house.
The historic mansion that is the Tonight Show.
Exactly. Now, internally, most people at NBC think that this Jay Leno show is an ass idea.
It's terrible.
And they think that the dramas on the other networks are going to just pummel Leno in the ratings.
Okay, I want to say something here.
Go ahead.
Now that we're getting into this, right? We've gone over all this, like, oh, they're so afraid to lose Leno stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think at this point in time, before we get to the result, we know the result, but before we get to the result,
everyone knows the ending here.
Was this some form of sabotage because they wanted to keep Jay Leno? Was Leno in on it, or whoever? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, was this somehow like orchestrated so that it would just kind of, they kind of knew how this would turn out beforehand? Not exactly, but they could kind of see the writing on the wall.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up because there are certain cynics that do have that theory. My honest answer is no, that there was no malintent, but that Jeff Zucker, bald guy, he knew it wouldn't work, Quinn.
Right. So somebody knew it wouldn't work.
But he knew that it would prevent Leno from leaving. It wasn't sabotage. Like, of course they want it to do well.
Do you think maybe the intent was the opposite, that Leno would get pissed that he wasn't getting his ratings because he wasn't in the time slot?
And then he walks away.
And then he walks away. And now he's
his contract.
Exactly. And now they can't lose him.
I think it was maybe that, but I think it was more of like a last resort move to keep him.
Right.
Do I think that Leno had any confidence this would work? No.
Right.
I don't think he did either. I think nobody did. I don't think anyone involved with this thought it would work.
Right.
Whatsoever. I remember when this was announced, and I was like, why is Jay Leno getting a show again?
Yeah.
When he just left? Serious. I was like, why would I watch that? I'm not going to watch this.
The only show he should be getting is something in the morning, not at night. I'm telling you, like, it would, because remember when like Darlene got her own show during the day, and
Bring
like
up Darlene.
I just mean to say, it's like that's where the people who were finished with stuff went, right?
But in Leno's mind, he's not. He was number one. He wasn't some guy out to pasture.
Well, Darlene was on a number one show too.
Why doesn't Letterman leave? He ain't number one.
I'm just saying.
Like, but what is your metric for why people should stop doing their job when they are still
doing it for 17 years?
Letterman's been on TV since '82.
Yeah, but they don't have anyone else, CBS, so that's the difference.
Well, NBC wanted to retain Leno. Are they going to replace him
with Mr. Wick? Like, come on.
Or Mr. Pitt.
Yeah.
Anyway, we get into 2009, and Conan O'Brien has his pretty emotional and pretty celebratory final late night.
I don't know what I did to deserve the opportunity to do this. There are people that have hosted these kinds of shows who are, I'm sure, better than I am. Nobody has ever enjoyed it more than I do. It's an incredible, amazing honor to do this program for you people. And I want to say something about, we're going on to this next gig. And sometimes I read that it's time for Conan to grow up because he's going to 11:30. And I assure you, that's just not going to happen.
That's a hell of a run. That's 16 years doing that show, just about. And Jimmy Fallon, who was obviously from SNL fame, he had been on an NBC holding deal because they wanted to keep him. They're very big on keeping people for a while.
They are.
They are, seriously. They did it to Seinfeld also. He was groomed to be the new host, and he was going to take over, and that he did the following Monday.
Now, I think
Conan.
this should be said is like Jimmy Fallon, I don't think anyone expected him to be good.
I didn't.
And I gotta say, it
was pretty good.
He made a pretty decent late night host.
Well, because
he was good.
He was 11 years younger than Conan.
Right.
So he was even more hip to the pop culture.
Yes.
And the nostalgia.
Right. He got the nostalgia thing that millennials kind of had more so than their
Gen
elders.
Xers.
Yeah. Like doing bits about that.
Yes.
He made a hell of a show, and it would pay off later.
It would pay off later, yes. So fast forward a few months, and Conan's been preparing for his new Tonight Show. Jay Leno's last Tonight Show, May the 29th, 2009. And you know who his final guest was?
Oh.
Conan O'Brien.
Ah.
Good luck next week, my friend.
Jay, thank you for everything.
All the best.
That's one thing you got to give everyone involved credit for. Carson didn't even mention Leno. Leno on his first show didn't mention Carson.
But that's because of Kathy Bates and all that.
Yes, because of Kathy Bates.
Right? Yeah.
Leno later regretted that.
Right.
But Carson didn't do any favors on the handoff.
Well, he was pissed off because all this crap went down.
He's not a professional either then.
But none of that was professional. What went on both sides of that?
Handshake on that one.
Yeah, come on.
And they do the opposite here. Leno has Conan on, hey, nice to have you here, you're taking over. And Conan's very magnanimous about it, very gracious, and it's actually very pleasant if you've ever seen the clip. CBS, meanwhile, the home of David Letterman and Worldwide Pants, of course.
Yes, all the pants.
Worldwide Pants reaches out to Jay Leno. Want to come on and be Dave Letterman's guest for the first time since on Late Night? Want to do that? Because that never happened since 92. And Leno's like, yeah, and they're like, okay, but it's going to be on June 1st, the day of Conan's first Tonight Show.
Well, I mean, I don't blame Letterman. I mean, this is This is the chance.
It's
finally,
business.
it's a new regime. It's a fresh start for Letterman's show. He can kind of like take over, right?
Why not pull on his old friend and get huge ratings?
It's a good idea.
And Jay Leno says no out of respect to Conan.
Good. Well, plus he's got another dumb show premiering
but
too.
He was in a lame duck period. He could have done that. So Conan O'Brien, The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien begins June 1st, 2009.
From Universal Studios in Hollywood, it's The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien.
And as you might expect for a debut, huge ratings, huge fanfare. 9.2 million people watch this.
They wanted to see what's up.
Big amount. And then, though, day by day, week by week,
night by night,
yes, people start to tune out. And by June 9th, debuted June 1st. June 9th, David Letterman, for the first time since 1995, beat Conan O'Brien and The Tonight Show.
Gotcha. So they're panicking now.
Yes.
But I mean, isn't this
8 days in?
Now, can I ask a question?
I thought Conan was so good.
But my point here,
he didn't need to broaden his act.
Here's where the times changing thing and blah blah blah. I want to say something here. First of all,
I'm listening.
This is precisely what happened with Leno. Once the new host came in, right? Yeah. Letterman went back on top again, right? Wasn't
No, that's not entirely true. Because remember, Leno did The Tonight Show for over a year without competition.
Right, but then Letterman came in and just kicked his ass for years.
The first 2 years.
So now this is a slightly different situation, right? Where Conan doesn't even have a chance to establish himself, and he's right in the competition right away. So I feel like if you're NBC, right, wouldn't this be expected to a certain extent that there would be a warming period? Okay, he's going to get the initial go down, maybe lose to Letterman for maybe a year or two or something, and he's going to gain momentum, and he's got the legacy. And like, isn't that like the formula that we saw with Leno?
I don't know.
To a certain extent.
There's not a ton of precedent for this. You know, like this has only happened with Leno taking over. He's the only other person since 62 to take over the show.
I'm just saying, after like a month to like completely panic without allowing this to form and become a thing.
Well, here's
it's weird.
I agree with you. So NBC, like you said, they're nervous, but everyone, including Conan's people, for the record, they were hopeful that the Jay Leno show, when it debuted in September, that it would provide a solid lead-in. I just want to make a point, though, that Conan was already sliding and already losing to Letterman 3 months before the shitty lead-in of the Jay Leno show debuted.
Right.
So you cannot blame that on Jay Leno.
Right. I'm blaming the executives here.
So let's do that then.
Because wouldn't that make it worse? Because here's the problem, right? Is you're putting Leno in there, right? And say you tune into that, right? And then that's over. You got your late night experience. So like, why the hell would you?
It's a terrible idea.
And then
it's awful.
And then poor Jimmy Fallon at the end was like, who the fuck is he even getting anymore? Like, now they've been through 2 late shows.
And then after him is Carson Daly.
Yeah, and Carson Daly might as well not exist. I couldn't believe that show was on, like, 2 years ago or something. Like, so I was like, how? How did it not fail, like, immediately?
Like 8 people watching that?
Yeah, it was, like, insane. I'd see some of the guests, I'm like, who even are these people? Like, they were just nobody.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
After 2,000 episodes, tonight marks the final episode of my late night show, Last Call, which started back here on NBC in 2002, if you can imagine.
Who cares?
So the Jay Leno show debuted September 14th, 2009.
It's the
Leno Show. Featuring Kevin Eubanks and the Primetime Band.
18.4 million people, double the amount of Conan O'Brien Show tuned in. So that tells you something about Jay Leno's appeal to certain demographics.
Right.
Like him or hate him.
Right.
And the ratings are good for the first show.
There's no way this held.
It did not hold. Now, if you've never seen the Jay Leno Show, just don't. It's horrible. There's no desk because they didn't want to look like a late night show. He's not headlines.
It's late night, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not really, though. Headlines was moved to the end instead of the beginning, which everyone hated. It was routinely beaten, like they predicted, by the other dramas that were on at 10.
Yeah, why would I watch that when I could watch something,
right.
of more of that time slot?
And more
right?
substance, yeah. But most of all, Jay Leno shows from 10 to 11, right? Tonight Show starts at 11:35.
Because we have to do the news.
Bingo. And guess what? The affiliates, they have the news. That's their friggin' thing that they bank on.
And so the news now is depending on a lead-in from this, right?
And they're starting, as 2009 starts to end, the individual affiliates and the ones that own them, they're getting very pissed off with this shitty lead-in.
You know what compounds it? Is that it's like 5 days a week. It's not like like they were used to like ER or like some other thing that, every day is different. And like, especially on Must See TV Thursday, right?
Yes.
It's awesome because it's like the best stuff is leading the news.
And the more people are watching their stupid news broadcasts.
Even I would slip into NBC News, who I didn't like anyway.
Yeah, you were an ABC guy.
I didn't like NBC Local, but after Must See TV, sometimes it'd be like, oh, who are these people? And I would just like keep that on instead, right?
Who are these people? Is there any Nastas on that one?
That's not Roz Abrams.
No,
What's happening
it's not
here,
Roz.
right?
Takes a tough man to make a tender forecast, Nick.
I guess that's me.
Keep fucking that chicken.
Meanwhile, by November of 2009, The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien is down 2 million viewers from where Leno had it a year earlier. Whatever you think of the comedic talents involved, whatever you think the reasoning is, whatever the reason is, NBC doesn't care what the reason is. All they know is we're down 2 million people from where we were a year ago, and Letterman is beating us for the first time in 14 years. That's just what they care about. So they're under pressure from the affiliates internally to do something, and what they want to do, and I do not agree with this, they want to figure out how to get rid of Conan.
Right, which is the opposite of what they should have been doing, is trying to figure out how to get rid of Jay. Again, I still feel strongly that the warming period is natural to a late night show, right? A late night show is a familiar thing, right? Conan needs the time to get familiar with America, right, at the slot.
I agree with you. I agree.
And that's a multi-year project. You don't just get familiar with people who are turning this on going to bed right away.
Well, look at his first show. It took 3 years.
Yeah.
For people to like 3 years
exactly.
it took.
That's what I mean.
And it wouldn't take that long now.
Right, but I'm just saying it's like they barely gave him a shot.
They really didn't. But they want to hit the reset button. They want to buy out Conan, pretend this never happened, and put Leno back. That's what they want to do.
So they just want to take like the instant win.
Yeah.
Even though that this guy's old as crap, so they don't have.
It's like 59.
But I mean to say, is Conan so young? They could have gotten.
He's 46.
They could have gotten so many more years out of him at that point, right?
Of
Without
course
having
they could
to
have.
Deal with this again.
But it's TV. It's what have you done for me lately? All you're doing is losing viewers, losing. Why do I want to keep you?
Yeah, and what if he had a heart attack in 2 years? Like
Who, Leno?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like he's older. That's all I'm saying.
Dave is the one that incidentally had the heart surgery.
I know.
Stop with the old bit. Come on, it's not fair.
I know it's not fair, but it was time. That's all I'm saying.
Because you don't like his comedy is why you're saying it's time.
Well, 17
That's
years.
your barometer. Letterman's been on the air at this point since 1982 in some form.
It's two things. It's time, and they have a replacement. They have a guy that's
that
good.
I agree with. They have a guy that has potential to be good.
The problem over at CBS is they have an old guy, but they don't have anybody to replace
Mr. Wick.
They have Mr. Wick. That's all they got. Mr. Wick can't do it.
No,
I'm sorry.
he can't do it yet.
I love Mr. Wick,
right.
But I can't see him dancing in Drew's office like every 11:30.
Around this same time in late 2009, and I don't agree with Jay Leno here, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
He was giving an interview, I don't remember with whom, where he was asked, if you were offered the 11:30 slot, would you go back? And he's like, yeah, I'd go back if they asked me. Listen, for a guy that's so slick with his PR to never say the wrong thing.
That just made everyone hate him, right?
It's a horrible thing to say.
Who wouldn't take that job, though? Who wouldn't do that?
everyone wants to think he's the villain at this point.
Yeah, and
right, because he's got this obnoxious time slot.
Yes.
He won't fucking leave. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
people are like, the pitchforks are coming out, right?
Andy Richter publicly responded to that. He's like, what the fuck with this guy? Like,
Yeah.
how do you say that? You
It's
know?
ridiculous.
Well, and also, from a PR standpoint, it makes Jay sound like he's campaigning to
Like
go
he's
back.
also in on it.
Right, even if he's not. Meanwhile, Mr. Brilliance, Jay Leno, and I mean this seriously, he had not a pay or play clause in his contract. Because pay or play means we don't have to put you on the air. In a pay and play, we have to put you on the air and pay you no matter what for the duration of your contract for 2 more years.
Well, I mean,
we have to do both.
if I was in his shoes and they said, I'm giving you a 10 p.m. slot and you're like the minor
Yep.
version, like I would be like, you're going to pay for that. And
No
you're
matter
gonna,
what.
And you're going to guarantee it, damn it. I would do the same thing. He's got the leverage there. They're downgrading
He
him.
had him by the balls there. But also part of that is his whole staff would get paid no matter what for the 2 years. And that's one thing that everyone agrees with. He was always good with his staff.
Yeah, I heard that even in his interviews.
Yes.
Like, he was always looking out for his staff, so props there.
Yeah, he is a human being.
Right.
He's just a weird one. So they can't get rid of Jay Leno for these 2 years unless he walks.
Right.
They have to keep him on the air. But they signed it. They did it.
They said, just move him in the morning. It's such a better idea.
Well, that'd be keeping him on the air. You're right. You could. So guess what? In order to fix this, because of the affiliates and the news and all this, the only viable option in their mind becomes let's buy out Conan, except one last Hail Mary. What if we, Jeff Zucker, bald guy, let's cut the Jay Leno show to 30 minutes instead of an hour.
Should have cut it to 15 minutes. What else does he have to say?
Well, that's a fair point,
Yeah.
Quinn. Let's move it to 11:30 when Conan's show starts. Let's bump Conan back to 12:05.
This is insane. This is even more insane.
Which would then
than the already insane thing going on.
Which would then bump Jimmy Fallon's start time back to 1:05. Which then bumps Carson Daly back to 2.
Carson Daly, who barely existed.
Barely, yeah.
And I called NBC and they said, well, we've never heard of Carson Daly. So there, and Carson Daly, woo, this is kind of, here's a kid who had a show at, when did the show go on, 1:30?
Yeah, well, 1:30.
Having a show at 1:30 is almost exactly like not having a show. The difference between having a show and having one at 1:30, just about like that.
This plan was formulated by the big wigs and geniuses at NBC who did not create this mess, obviously, in December of 2009, but they want to wait until January so everyone can get through Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Nice of them. Very humane. They're playing games with people's livelihood and careers here, and they're like, I'll just wait till after
Not
Christmas.
to mention all the staffs on all these shows, even down to Carson Daly, which is probably like 6 people.
It's like 2 guys.
Yeah,
One of them cooks. Now, Leno, specifically, when he's offered this, he's like, well, do you think Conan's going to go for this? And they're like, oh, yeah.
I said, okay, you think Conan will go for that? Yes. Yes. Almost guaranteed. I said, okay, shake hands, that's it.
Conan does not go for this.
So this, I wonder if this surprised them. Because maybe they thought he doesn't have the history or the leverage. What the hell is he going to do, right?
Maybe. Let me ask you a question before we talk about the fallout here. In all seriousness, because I've heard a lot of support for Conan on not accepting this pushback to 12:05. But I've also heard people say, Norm Macdonald being one, Jerry Seinfeld being one, but he's a Leno fan. What's the big damn deal? It's still The Tonight Show.
No, it's the Tomorrow Show.
I know. Yeah, Tom Snyder.
Yeah.
I don't know why these guys care about time slots, or everybody just puts their things on TiVo. I can watch anything without commercials. These guys are living in the 50s where 11:30 is important.
I heard
why is
Conan
11:30 important?
I heard Conan say that is
well
important.
said, Norm. Well, I don't know why it's important. It's a number.
What is your opinion? Like,
I think, you know what that is to me? That's respect for the brand at that point.
It's respect for Johnny and...
Yeah, that's respect for the show itself to say, you know what? If they're going to keep jerking this, they're going to ruin their own brand, and it's my responsibility as the host that they picked to take care of it. If they're going to ruin it because I won't leave, then I'll leave.
Do you think
it's the right thing to do? Is it like the best for business? Probably not.
Right. Do you think that part of it, the human element, is Conan saying, well, look, fuck them. They offered this to me at 11:30, and they're not giving it to me. So
they offered me the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
They didn't offer me some shortened
hybrid, Leno's on at 11:30 still. Hi, this is Joe from the future. Well, not really, because by the time you're listening to this, it's already the past, but the future of after we recorded this. Anyway, I'm breaking into this during post-production here because I forgot one point and I wanted to make it here. Conan O'Brien is the only Tonight Show host and the only late-night host at that time, meaning Letterman and Leno, that did not have a specific provision in his contract that stipulated the Tonight Show must start at 11:35. Leno had that. Letterman had that. For whatever reason, when Conan's contract was being put together, his people, Gavin Pallone and all these other people involved, overlooked the 11:35 stipulation, which is the only reason NBC could even propose moving it to 12:05. And that was a major blunder on Conan's people's part. So I just wanted to make that clear here. Let's go back to Quinn talking.
This is not what the original deal was. So he also, on top of doing the right thing, he was kind of within his rights to give them the finger and leave.
I agree.
Right? At that point?
I agree with you to that point, actually. If what he wanted was to host a show called The Tonight Show, well, then he's still getting what he wants. But if what he wanted was to be rid of Jay Leno as a lead-in, I'm serious, started at 11:35 like it always had, and then, yeah, fuck you, NBC. You jerked me around.
Why didn't they just put Jay Leno on in the Carson Daly slot is my question. It's not like he really exists anyway.
Because you need to pull advertising.
I get it.
Conan was losing rating. Listen, I'm not saying this reflects on my opinion of Conan. I love the Conan O'Brien show. I love Late Night with Conan O'Brien.
Or why don't you put on Jay at late night?
Huh?
You could put Jay on
Follow
late.
Conan?
Yeah.
No, because you're fighting sleep at that point. Those shows are much, much lower rated than The Tonight Show. They're trying to pull advertising. That's all this is about.
I get
all
it,
it's about.
He's a problem, and you have this pay-to-play thing or whatever.
Jay's not the problem. He was number one. He's not causing problems. Mm-hmm. They wanted to keep him.
That 10 o'clock thing wasn't
It's a horrible idea. No, that
wasn't attracting
too.
viewers.
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
So he ain't number one no more.
It was so bad that people did think it was sabotage.
Yeah.
Self-sabotage by NBC. You know what I mean? That's how bad it performed after the initial day.
Mm-hmm.
So Conan crafts his big manifesto, as they call it, the People of Earth letter, as he signs it. But anyway, the bottom...
It's a very Conan thing.
It's very Conan, People of Earth. And then he makes a joke about his hair at the end or something. But anyway, the bottom line of this statement, this is important from a legal standpoint. He worded it, Quinn, in such a way where he wasn't quitting. He never said, I quit in the letter, because guess what happens if he does that? He's breaching his contract, right? But he was opposing the changes. Mm-hmm. He was opposing the shift to 12:05. He's like, I can't partake in the destruction of this Tonight Show franchise, blah, blah, blah. So technically, that leaves the ball in NBC's court, because Conan didn't say, I'm quitting.
Right.
He just said, I don't want to do this.
Now, did Conan have to... He didn't have a pay or play thing, but he had... So he was essentially attached at the hip at them for years afterwards, but he wasn't paid?
No. Well, he had a contract. If NBC wanted him to go, they had to pay him like $45 million. There was a penalty payment previously in place, and basically that was the deal here. So Conan...
So he proved NBC wanted him to leave.
Yes. So Conan's saying, I quit. They don't have to pay him that 45. Conan's saying, I don't want to do this, but that's it.
Right.
I don't agree with this, is all he said. He had it worded legally in a way where he wasn't quitting.
Interesting.
Which put the onus on NBC to interpret it and make a decision. So they had the meetings about it, and Conan's lawyers were telling NBC, no, he'll go on at 12:05. So NBC says, well, this is just public posturing then. He's just doing this for public opinion. Right. You know, he wants to look heroic, and he wants us to look like assholes, but you're telling us that he's really going to go on at 12:05. Finally, I'm just skipping ahead. NBC agrees to just buy him out and end this shit for $45 million.
That's a lot of money to pay someone to leave. Seriously, they get nothing. Right. They lose the talent and they get nothing out of it, right?
They lose money.
Right. And they've just partially torpedoed the late night brand.
And caused a complete cluster, probably worse than the one in 1992.
Right.
Which is unbelievable, because this whole thing started out with them trying to avoid that problem.
Right.
So the only other clause in this is that he can't talk about this stuff, on the air and blah blah blah.
Fine.
And he can't be on TV, host a thing until September of 2010. So
isn't that far away?
It's 8 months. It's fine. The announcement is made. Conan O'Brien leaving The Tonight Show.
There is breaking news now on Fox News Channel. Conan O'Brien has just announced he is leaving NBC. He will not do The Tonight Show at, 12:05.
And returning to host it, pay and play, on March 1st, 2010, will be none other than Jay Leno.
So, how did this do? Like, what happened here?
Well, let's get into it.
Yeah.
In the midst of the announcement of Conan leaving and his last show, much to NBC's chagrin, Conan's ratings shoot up because he's smart. He knows how to play this.
Everyone's waiting for him to go off on them, right?
Right.
Like,
And
they don't know all this backstage stuff. They're just like, hey, they screwed him over. Like, maybe he's going to talk shit about Jay Leno. We don't like him anyway.
But that is the popular opinion. This is where the whole I'm with Coco and Team Conan started with the orange hair, like Barack Obama parody poster.
Yeah.
That's where all this started. Was like, Jay Leno is the corporate bully, asshole, fuck him, fat, stupid.
Yeah.
And Conan is our hero and saint. But really, Conan's getting $45 million fucking dollars to walk away. And Jay Leno, they signed him to a deal where they said, you got to be here for 2 years.
The one thing I'll say about the $45 million, if you're going to say like, oh, Conan's so smart or whatever, honestly, this is, as we've gone through, this is NBC's own stupidity. This had nothing to do with like Conan being like, haha, I'm going to get $45 million out of him.
But he shrewdly played it so they would buy him out.
Right, but they already made 17 stupid moves to get here in the first place. So Conan barely had to do anything but say, I don't really want to do it, but
and then just end the letter.
Yeah, but yeah.
And then stop. And that's what was great about it, is it forced NBC.
He had to make a very simple gesture, and they were dumb. Because they made so many bad moves, they were forced.
Yeah,
right?
It's great. So in the midst...
It's so ridiculous. What total incompetence. Who are the investors of this company? Like, they'd be like, who's running the place? Like, we just gave $45 million for nothing?
This is around the time where Comcast was coming in for the buyout also.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is going on here?
And I just want to say to the kids out there watching, you can do anything you want in life. Yeah, unless Jay Leno wants to do it too.
Meanwhile, Jay Leno did himself no favors by looking like an asshole by not defending himself. And this is what's interesting, Quinn. Jay Leno, even recently as of 2022, I want to say, he was on, I think it was with Howie Mandel or somebody on a podcast saying, what am I going to defend myself for? No one's going to feel bad for me. Like, no one's going to believe me anyway.
I know, because he's the old man here.
Right.
Button in on the young guy,
But he was self-aware that it's like, no one's going to believe what I say. Why get involved, right?
Look, when you make the kind of money you make in TV, to the average person, you have no problems at all. And your problems pale in comparison to theirs. So don't even bring them up.
But he looked like an asshole because of this specific 3-word phrase. Don't blame Conan.
Don't blame Conan O'Brien.
Letterman, meanwhile, David Letterman, who had been like sleepwalking through the 2000s.
By the way, all the Letterman, there's like Howard Stern and like all these people commenting on this. It's
very funny.
It's hilarious, and they're all right. Like all of them. George Lopez making comments about this. Like all of them are. Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, Kimmel's great.
Like,
What's the best prank you ever pulled? The best prank I ever pulled was I told a guy that 5 years from now, I'm going to give you my show. And then when the 5 years came, I gave it to him, and then I took it back almost instantly. It was hilarious.
But Letterman's having a field day because he hadn't really... His show was okay still in the 2000s, but this lit a fire under him because, A, he can relate to the NBC media bullshit.
Do you think this felt like a weird justification for Letterman in a way, like after all those years, like kind of bitching, like, see, they don't know what they're doing over there? Like that kind of
with
thing.
NBC being incompetent? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why he loved it so much. He likes Jay Leno. He pokes fun of him.
But he
likes him.
But he even probably had a bad taste in his mouth after all that.
Well, Leno didn't do him any
part
wrong.
one of this podcast.
Yeah, Leno, as we've talked about, Leno didn't really do anything wrong. It wasn't
I understand that. I mean, management over at NBC.
Oh, he hated NBC. Yeah. So he just had a field day with this, commenting on it. And one of his favorite things is like, he was recapping how Jay said, don't blame Conan.
Don't blame Conan.
Don't blame Conan for what's going on. And I said to myself, no one is blaming Conan.
Which is just, why would Leno say that? He just sounds so stupid. Don't blame Conan. Nobody was, Jay.
Not one person. They were blaming you!
Yeah. But even though it's not his, it's really not Leno's fault.
But it really, to be fair, Joe, to the general populace, it really does not appear that way.
I know that.
Yeah. You had to read a book to find that out.
Well, you have to look into things.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, and again, a legitimate question. It's not rhetorical. A lot of people, and I'm sure people that listen to this are going to say this, Jay Leno should have walked away and let Conan just do the show.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question. Why? He was hired to do a job. He has a contract. If he wants to do the job and NBC wants him to, why would he walk away? Quinn, that's like saying, well, you know what? I don't want this promotion. Give it to my coworker that I'm not friends with.
But I guess what I look at it as, like, if your boss is saying, hey, man, it's time to go. It's time to move on, right? We'll get you a gold watch. And
why did they say that?
Well, first of all, because the Prince of Wales contract or whatever. Yeah, the contract, right?
When was that? 2002?
Yeah.
7
that was
years
the Prince
ago.
of Wales thing, but then there's also the 4-year thing or 5-year thing or whatever after.
Years ago.
Yeah.
They didn't want to lose Conan O'Brien.
Mm-hmm.
That came back to bite them because then they realized, holy shit, now we don't want to lose Jay Leno.
Right.
What did Jay Leno do wrong in either of those scenarios?
I'm not saying he did anything wrong.
So why should he walk away?
You know why he should walk away?
That's like saying I should leave my job because somebody else wants it.
But, okay.
Why should I?
Remember a couple minutes ago, we just praised Conan for being the big person and saying, don't reduce the time of the tonight, or change the time of the, like all this bullshit.
Yeah.
Honestly, as the elder in this situation, seriously though, I'm not saying that as like a joke. It's like the guy who hosted the show and had probably a healthy respect for the brand and stuff like that.
Yes.
If you saw that happening, you'd think he would be the first to jump in the middle and say, no, just, I'll go.
But why? He doesn't want to go. He never wanted to. They made him leave. They forced him out to keep Conan.
For two reasons.
They forced him out.
For the good of the show. And the second reason, because if you're very smart, CNBC, Jay Leno, wouldn't you look like a damn hero if you said, you know what, I'm going to leave for the good of the show, and like now he looks like so good.
Conan wanted to be the folk hero here.
But, okay, so let's game day that in the opposite direction. Say you don't know the future, what's going to happen, right?
I have no idea.
We do, but they don't at the time.
Yeah.
You're walking into a situation where you're going to retake the reins and everyone hates you. Because wouldn't that make his show, wouldn't he think, well, the show's going to get worse ratings because everyone freaking hates me. They're all going to go
but
to
everyone
either find
doesn't
where
hate
Conan
him.
goes or go to Letterman or whatever.
But it's the vocal minority. It's the people that were watching Late Night with Conan O'Brien. It's the people that like Letterman. Of course they're not watching Leno.
I just mean, it's like, I thought that maybe some of this bad sentiment, this bad taste would change the public's...
Do you think the 56-year-old housewife in Sheboygan gives a flying shit about this? She just wants to click on her TV.
It was all in the news. I mean, they interviewed Conan on 60 Minutes.
We live on the East Coast. When that was after the fact, when he had the beard.
I just mean, it's like people...
It was beard era.
People were treating People were treating this like NATO was like negotiating like terms with two countries or something.
Because it's very easy to get involved in something with people fighting over money when you have nothing to do with it. It's very easy to choose sides and be involved. But
that's what I'm saying. It was just, listen, this isn't even an attack on Leno. It's saying that it might have been the smarter move to walk away because you look like the big man.
It's
right?
not smart if what you wanted to do was still host The Tonight Show and it got taken from you because somebody else signed a deal that said that they're going to host it after you do.
Right, but
he wasn't failing at his job, Quinn, and he didn't say he wanted to retire.
What I'm trying to get at through all this is like it's tainting his legacy.
Since when is legacy the only merit to live on?
I just mean you're older. You've been doing this for 17
and
years.
You want to keep doing it.
You want to keep doing it, but you also want to be respected like Johnny Carson or whoever. So
does he want to be respected like Johnny Carson?
I guess not, apparently, because he was willing to just wait until Conan blinked first.
And he did.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I just never understood. Well, NBC wants me to have it, but you know what? Conan really wants it, so I'll step aside from the job that I didn't wanted to stop doing.
You're absolutely right. It's just like I'm thinking in the shoes of someone that gives a shit about this brand, not me and my ratings and blah, blah, blah.
Well, if Conan gave a shit about the brand, he would have listened to Dick Ebersol and Rick Ludwin and all the other people that told him to change your shit and not been number two. Number two for the first time since 95. I know, they gave him no time.
They gave him
7
no
months.
time. That is
absolutely fucked him.
Yeah, that's not...
I want to be clear.
Yeah, that is absolutely not a fair assessment of Conan.
Let me be 1,000,000% clear here, folks. as much as I'm trying to provide what I believe is a logical counterpoint to the anti-Leno sentiment that's permeated all of this, I do believe NBC fucked Conan also.
They absolutely did.
I just want to be very clear. He had no time.
Any logical person would expect him to be lower for the first year or two.
You know what they should have done, in all seriousness? Just let Leno go to ABC.
Yeah.
And if he beats them, so be it.
So be it, yeah.
At least he's not at 10 up their prime time, up their affiliates, Conan.
Right.
Hope your dad's not listening to this one. I'm cursing a lot. But
we both have.
Hi, if you're out there.
This is a feisty episode.
But we needed one of these. And listen, one last time here, maybe not the last time, but I don't want to beat a dead horse. I just want to make it very clear, because I'm sure there's people that are like, why is Joe defending Jay Leno so much?
Right.
I'm not so much defending Jay Leno, because I do think that the honorable thing, like you said, Quinn, is to walk away. I get it. I really do. He doesn't need the money. I totally understand. The only thing I'm trying to say is, from a strictly business point of view, Jay Leno was the one that NBC wanted. They wanted to move him back to 11:35. Do I think he knew that would happen? Yeah, he probably did.
Yeah.
He probably hung on in case Conan failed. I can totally get on board with that. I'm not trying to say that Conan was done no wrong. As I said, they did screw him. NBC screwed him, though, I think more so than Jay Leno, and I just want to make it very clear. I preferred Conan. I preferred his show, Late Night.
Yeah.
I like Conan. I really, really, really do. I'm just trying to kind of balance this out and really paint NBC as the real villain. Okay. So Conan's last Tonight Show was January 22nd, 2010.
Every comedian dreams of hosting the Tonight Show. And for 7 months, I got to do it. And I did it my way, with people I love. I do not regret 1 second. So to all the people watching, I can never, ever thank you enough for the kindness to me. I'll think about it for the rest of my life. And all I ask is one thing, and I'm asking this particularly of young people that watch. Please do not be cynical. I hate cynicism. For the record, it's my least favorite quality. It doesn't lead anywhere. Nobody in life gets exactly what they thought they were going to get. But if you work really hard and you're kind, amazing things will happen.
Leno returns on March 1st. The Olympics was in between. That's why there's a gap.
I'm Jay Leno, your host, at least for a while. So, gotta admit, I'm a little bit nervous. Not because it's my first night back, because I know Dave and Oprah are watching. That's right. That's right, really.
Obviously, the public opinion here was almost unanimously towards Conan O'Brien that he got screwed. I do agree that he got screwed.
Yeah.
I absolutely do. I want to be clear about that. I think the way it's been distilled is very binary. Jay bad, Conan good.
I agree with you.
That's not fair.
I agree with you on that. It's just that the only thing that where it's like, I kind of think it was like in his control was that final moment where basically like essentially one of them could have left willingly and one of them did. That's where I give the credit to Conan, because by all means he had earned the spot like by that point. And he didn't get the fair shake, and like he was within. I guess he was within his rights. Like, you know,
he was within his rights to be upset.
Yeah,
he really was,
and just hang on to it.
The main issue I take with it is that it's been painted like Leno said he was retiring because he wanted to retire in 2009, and he did hint at that on that speech, but that's not really what happened. And that's where, listen, do you remember how Leno got the Tonight Show to begin with?
Through controversy and angling and like
what did Kathy Bates put in there when Leno signed that contract? Whenever Johnny Carson steps down, Jay Leno is the new host of the Tonight Show.
And that's exactly how Conan got in.
Yes. So why is Leno vilified for that? And it's fine if Conan does it. It's the same tactic, except in this case, there was an actual time limit put on Leno.
Well, because Carson didn't try to host a 10 o'clock show before.
No. But come on.
It's all the stuff after the fact is what caused the anti-Leno sentiment.
Okay, fine.
You know, it's not the Prince of Wales flaws.
Fine. Wales notwithstanding.
Yeah.
Or Scotland with Mr. Wick or any of that.
Yeah.
One thing to just keep in mind, folks, is the reason Leno got the Tonight Show is it was put into a contract that he would when Carson retired. Conan got it under very similar circumstances much earlier. You know, in 2002, this was first talked about. And the reason that they both got it is because NBC did not want to lose Leno at the time, in 91, and didn't want to lose Conan at the time in 2001. That's why. It isn't about earning, Quinn. It's not about like the line of succession being established. There really wasn't precedent for that. It is about, we don't want to lose this guy because we want to make money.
I just think ultimately NBC should have just stuck to their word.
They should have given Conan time.
They made a management decision. They said, okay, we're changing this show. I don't care what either of them think. We're changing this show, right? We are the network. Like, we can do that, right?
But what is the metric to base that on? What is the KPI on that?
I don't know.
But that's not anything, because if you're going by precedent, Carson had time.
Right. But I'm just pointing out is that they felt it was time, whether right or wrong.
No, they didn't. They just wanted to keep Conan. That's all they wanted, was to keep him from going to Fox.
They didn't have to put the 5-year limit on the second one.
Because they wanted to keep him. They just didn't want to lose him. They may have never wanted to really give him the Tonight Show. They may have never actually intended to fully hand that off to him.
But I thought we just discussed that the second contract was the second renewal, not the Prince of Wales one. The second one is.
Yeah, but the second one, they signed with him to keep him.
Right.
To keep him. They just didn't want to lose him.
Then let Conan go. I don't know. Like, what do they want?
That's what they did.
Yeah, because that's ultimately what happened anyway. So, like, they just made everything bad and crappy.
It's interesting, though, because what's never talked about is that when this contract discussion took place, where they said that, hey, this is your last contract, he was only 53 going on 54, and he was number one in the ratings. And I know no one's going to feel bad for him for that, but what I mean is sometimes I think this is viewed too much from like a artistic and creative lens, when really his job is not to be good. His job is to make money for NBC. Ultimately, it's not about who's funnier, because you don't package the laughs and sell the laughs to advertisers. But it's not about being funnier.
I want to point out something.
Or more creative.
Just to my point about him being older or have been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, not as long as Dave, though.
Right.
For the record.
How many years after, with this new Jay Leno regime?
that newcomer Jay Leno?
The second regime of Jay Leno.
So that went until 2014.
Right. So he didn't have many years left on him anyway.
No. But he retired on his own terms that time.
Right.
He was pushed, 10 years earlier, Quinn, he was pushed into leaving.
But I just want to point something out. Okay, so the 4 years, he does whatever. Jay Leno's it
He's
up.
number one again.
Jimmy Fallon comes in, and then he replaces Leno. How fresh did that show feel initially, even for like a couple of years?
Yeah, I know people hate it because they don't like Jimmy Fallon.
Right, but it was so
different.
And it was it felt like you were at something that was interesting and happening, right?
Well,
you had Questlove on the drums.
The roots are great.
You had people from old sitcoms showing up, and it just felt like a friendly place. It felt like something I wanted to watch every night, right?
Well,
and he wasn't even the best comedian or anything.
No, he's
he was
not.
Just very welcoming, but he was kind of clever too. He had little goofy jokes and like things that were subversive and not normal.
Yeah.
Like it felt like a little bit of everything, right? And I think, to me, the change that they ultimately got to was the best thing for them, because it was a better version of everything they kind of wanted out of Jay Leno.
I think sometimes people don't want to admit that maybe Conan, he was the right guy at the wrong time. Maybe if he had the Tonight Show right after Jay Leno officially wanted to retire, like Fallon did, where there wasn't any messiness, or maybe if Jay Leno had retired in 2002 or 3 and he got it, maybe that would have, because he was sky high in that period of time.
The problem is, ultimately, I felt like it left a stain on Conan weirdly too. Like he never wasn't the guy that got screwed over.
I think most people think you got screwed. I mean, Jay Leno thinks you got screwed. Jay Leno thinks he got screwed. How did he get screwed?
After all of this, I'll say this with the surety. Man, Jay Leno and The Tonight Show is some cursed stuff from the beginning to the end. What is the deal with this guy? Like, why?
He appealed to the important demographics, Quinn.
I think ultimately, if you kind of like dissect all of it and why him coming in was controversial, him leaving the first time was controversial, him coming in the second time was controversial, like all of it. I think that this guy while he had the central area of the country or whatever, the middle area of
America, not Central America.
I just don't think he had the heart of America. People didn't love him.
He was a joke machine.
Right.
That's really what people considered him. He wasn't a broadcaster.
He wasn't beloved like Letterman.
Oh, God, no. Letterman wasn't beloved
and
either.
Even Jimmy Fallon, to a certain extent, because he's so little and weird and different. It's like he's got like a lovableness about him because he's just weird. You know what I mean? Like he's just like he seems so unassuming.
I guess so.
You know what I mean?
I mean, ultimately, we don't need to feel bad for any of these people.
I understand
They've
that.
all done very well for
I'm just
themselves.
trying to assess this whole like why it was so. America really wanted to take sides about this guy.
Well, you know what
they did not like him. There was vocal people.
That's all it is.
In areas of the country that were like, "This is not the guy."
But East and West Coast,
yeah.
No one else cared.
I know.
They thought Conan wasn't the guy, or else they would have been watching him, Quinn.
Right.
I mean, I'm just telling the truth. They were more comfortable switching over to Dave because he had been there. I want to be very clear one last time. I think NBC screwed Conan.
Yes.
I really do. I think they screwed him by not giving him enough time. I think they screwed him by putting the Jay Leno show on before him. I think they screwed him by making him wait 5 years. 5 years is a long time to wait. I mean, that's a long lame duck period.
Yeah.
But I do think that Jay Leno, all he was shrewd. I mean, listen, Johnny Carson was a noted asshole in real life.
He was.
Well, fuck you too, Joe and Quinn.
But nobody seems to mind because Johnny in the Tonight Show.
But people loved him. See that that to me is the difference.
Jay Leno, known as a nice guy in real life, but everyone hates him because of his brand of comedy being very bland and he seems Machiavellian and manipulative.
Right.
David Letterman, notoriously prickly to people. Conan, nice guy, known as a very nice
Notice
guy.
the ones everyone loves are big jerks.
but Conan was a nice guy.
Yeah. Maybe America likes their comedy, big jerks. Like
but middle America doesn't.
Yeah,
middle America wanted a Jay Leno.
Yeah, and I was saying to you before this. I you know what I find interesting about all this? There's a certain Americanness, like a cultural divide over what Leno represents.
Yeah,
a lot of it came out in all of this, right, from the beginning to the end. Right,
yeah, Leno's demographics skew older. Midwestern,
right?
Conservative values, where they don't need shock humor, they don't need vulgarity.
But this really angered the coasts. They did not like this.
Segments of them. Again, this is a small vocal minority. Like Howard Stern, of course, is going to stir up people.
Right,
but he has an audience.
I don't remember anybody in New York really ever liking Leno.
No, I don't either.
Ever.
I didn't like Leno, really.
Yeah,
it was not cool.
Yeah,
he is not cool whatsoever.
Anybody under 30 didn't like.
Probably under 40.
Leno, didn't like Leno.
Yeah, he's not cool.
Like I said, he's not beloved. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't have like an attachment to this guy.
No, I know.
And his glossy floor and his stupid desk. I just didn't like him.
He just turned out a show that most of the people watching late night wanted to see. It's not
like
for
if Johnny
everyone.
Carson came out of a factory or something. Like he just was so robotic.
None of the bite, none of the edge that was there previously. The epilogue on this is Conan did return to TV in September of 2010. Incidentally, on TBS, bumping...
I can't even believe this is a thing.
George Lopez Tonight, which was on the nice 11 spot, bumping it back an hour for Conan.
This cracks me up because... so
interesting, isn't it?
Well, this cracks me up only for two reasons, right? If you see the clips of George Lopez, he's like egging this whole thing on, and he's like egging on his own destruction, right? Like he's like making fun of Leno and supporting Conan and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
and then he comes in and he gives some interview like, "Oh, I'm happy I'm going to lose my show." Like it's like he was like, "What an idiot!" Like what was going on there? I just don't understand what from a business perspective what's going on there.
Because maybe he just wanted to have a show and didn't care when it was on.
Yeah,
Conan cared.
And he just didn't. He just. And also, it's also TBS, so the prestige. It's not like it's like, oh, I lost the 11 o'clock spot on TBS. Who cares?
Who's going to lead into Mama's Family now?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we didn't get the same respect that NBC gave him, and he bitched for 2 years.
Yep.
I mean, I took my hit like a man, and I went away.
So you think Conan was a little soft in how he took that all?
With me?
Yeah, no, I mean how he took his own departure.
Oh yeah, he acted like, he acted like the world had ended. He gave you a big check, man.
But ultimately, the lesson here is that the stick it to the network approach that might sound so cool and punk rock, to edgy people like ourselves. Fine. You like when Letterman stuck it to NBC, and you like when Conan's like, "Fuck you, I'm not doing this." cost them the Tonight Show gig.
Didn't get the ratings either when they
No.
went to their own thing.
Right.
And so,
might not have the critical appeal,
but again,
might not have the legacy.
I do think that brand, I still really strongly feel that the brand itself helps whoever the hell's hosting
Well, it didn't help Conan when he was head-to-head with Letterman.
for 6 months.
Seven.
Seven.
And it did
Sorry.
not help.
Whatever.
Very big difference. Quinn.
Yeah.
And it didn't help. I don't put any weight on that because it also didn't help Leno when he was head-to-head with Letterman
Right.
for the first hit. So no. Argument.
We already discussed
window,
that, though,
open the window and throw it out.
Yeah,
'cause
we
it's
already
argument
discussed the
stinks.
whole, it takes time to build an audience thing.
It does. And you know what? We could go on and on.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't need to. We hope you guys have enjoyed this fiery discussion on
very fiery
Leno versus Conan.
F-bombs on this episode.
Got to bring the fire sometimes. Listen, let us know what you think. I'm sure 99.999 people are going to say Team Conan all the way. I get it.
Also,
and I'm not
people are going to say, "I don't even. What are you even talking about?" Or "I don't care."
That's true. A lot of people are going to say that too. That's fine. Next week, like we said, something completely different. Until that time, thank you so much for being part of our audience here. We'll be a lot happier next time, I'm sure, and a lot more friendly. So be sure to follow us on Twitter at AWM Podcast and join our Facebook group. Until next time, Joe Morata and Michael Quinn. We'll see you next week for more Acid Wash Memories.
See ya.
Like what you heard? Be sure to leave a review and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. We will see you next week.